The Fiddler that sends you to sleep. A mood drift sleep story. Settle in now. My name is Michael. It's time to begin. Let your shoulders come down from wherever they have been holding themselves all day, somewhere up near your ears, and let them sink. Let the back of your head grow heavy against the pillow, heavier than you usually allow it to be, and let the weight of it press a small, warm hollow into the softness beneath you. There is nowhere you need to be tonight. There is nothing left undone that cannot wait until morning, and morning is a long way off, far on the other side of a country we are about to walk into together, very slowly, with no hurry in our feet at all. Tonight there is a fiddler waiting for you. He has been waiting a long while, patient in the way that only very old and very gentle things are patient, and he carries with him an instrument made for one purpose alone, which is to loosen the knots in a tired mind and lay them down, one strand at a time, until the whole tangle has come undone, and there is nothing left to hold you upright. You do not have to do anything to receive his music. You do not have to listen carefully, or follow the story closely, or remember any of it in the morning. In fact, it is better if you do not try. The trying is the very thing we are setting aside. All you have to do is breathe, and let the words move past you like slow water, and let the fiddler do what fiddlers of his particular kind have always done. Take one breath now that is a little deeper than the last, and let it go without pushing it. Feel how the air leaves you on its own, the way a tide pulls back from the sand without being asked. And again, there is no correct way to breathe yourself towards sleep. There is only the willingness to stop steering, to take your hands off the wheel of the day, and let the road carry you where roads carry everyone in the end. Down and down, into the dark and the quiet and the rest. The fiddler comes from a country that does not appear on any map you have ever folded into a glove compartment. It has many names, because every sleeper who has ever passed through it has called it something different, and the names do not contradict one another so much as describe different doors into the same wide land. Some have called it the quiet country. Some have called it the far shore. The people of the cold north, who knew it perhaps better than anyone, simply called it the place beyond the last hill, and they did not say much more about it than that, because they understood that the surest way to lose your road to such a place is to talk too loudly on the way there. We will call it Driftmere tonight, for the slow water that runs through the middle of it, and for the way the whole country seems always to be drifting. Just slightly, the way a small boat drifts at its mooring when the wind has died and the lake has gone to glass. Let me tell you what Driftmere looks like, so that when you arrive, you will not be a stranger there. It lies always at the hour just after dusk, the hour the old painters loved best, when the sun has gone down behind the hills but has not yet taken all its light with it, so that the sky holds a deep and tender blue, the blue of ink before it dries, the blue you can almost taste at the very back of your throat. Nothing in Driftmere is ever fully dark, and nothing is ever fully bright. It lives entirely in that soft middle country between the two, where edges go gentle and shapes lose their hard corners, and everything seems to be remembered rather than seen. There are low hills in Driftmere, rounded and green and worn smooth by uncountable years. The kind of hills that look as though they were laid down by a hand that loved them. Mist gathers in the folds between them, pooling in the low places the way milk pools in a tilted bowl. And the mist moves slowly. So slowly you cannot quite catch it moving, only notice, after a while, that it has gone somewhere new. There are meadows of long grass that bends all one way in a wind too faint for you to feel on your own skin. And when the grass bends, you can hear it, a long, soft hush that travels across the whole field and fades, and then comes again, like the country itself is breathing in time with you. There are stands of old trees with broad, calm crowns, and beneath them the moss grows thick enough to swallow the sound of any footstep, so that you could walk all night through those woods and never hear yourself pass. And through the heart of all of it runs the water that gives the country its name. It is not a river exactly, and not a lake, but something between the two, a slow, wide drift of dark water that never seems to flow in any particular direction, only to move, gently, the surface of it dimpled here and there by things rising from below that you never quite see. Reeds grow along its edges, tall and soft-headed, and they nod in the same faint wind that bends the grass. The water is warm. This is the first surprising thing most sleepers notice about Driftmere, that the water is warm. Warm as a bath that has been waiting for you, and the air above it is warm too, and laden with the green smell of growing things, and the cool mineral smell of water, and something else underneath, something like wood smoke from a fire that went out long ago, a comfortable, settled, end-of-the-day smell that tells the oldest part of your brain that the work is finished and it is safe now to let go. The Fiddler lives by that water. He has a small house there, low and long, with a turf roof so thickly grown with grass and tiny yellow flowers that from a little distance the house looks like one more of the country's soft green hills, and you might walk right past it if you did not know, to look for the thin blue thread of smoke that rises from its chimney and the warm square of gold that is its one lit window. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Before we go in, before we meet him properly, let your breath go out once more, long and unhurried, and let a little more of the day's weight leave your body with it. You are doing nothing wrong by resting. You are doing the one thing your body has been asking you to do for hours. The Fiddler is not a young man, and not an old one. His age is the kind that does not move in a straight line. There are moments, when the lamplight catches him a certain way, that he looks no more than 30, lean and quick-fingered, with dark hair falling across a high forehead. And there are other moments, when he turns his head and the shadow falls into the lines around his eyes, that he looks older than the hills outside his window, older than the water, old enough to have been playing his fiddle since before the first sleeper ever closed the first pair of eyes. Both of these are true. Time runs differently in Driftmere, the way it runs differently in dreams, where you can live a whole long afternoon in the space of a single breath and wake convinced that hours have passed. He is tall, and he stoops a little, the permanent, gentle stoop of a person who has spent a lifetime bending his head down over an instrument held against his shoulder. His hands are the most remarkable thing about him, long and pale and very calm, with fingers that seem to have one more joint than ordinary fingers, though if you tried to count them, you would find the usual number and decide you had imagined it. When those hands are at rest, they fold quietly in his lap, the way a sleeping bird folds its wings, and when they move without any wasted motion at all, every gesture smooth and slow and sure, so that simply watching them is enough to slow the racing of your own thoughts. His eyes are the gray of water under a clouded sky, and they are kind, but there is a faraway quality to them. The look of someone who is always half listening to a music that you cannot yet hear. He does not speak much. Fiddlers of his kind almost never do. Words are clumsy tools for the work he does, blunt and heavy where his work requires the very finest touch, and so he has learned over his long, uncountable life to say what he needs to say through the strings instead, and to leave the talking to people like me, who stand at the edge of his country and try, with these poor, clumsy words, to point you toward the door. What he wears is simple. A long coat, the soft gray-green of lichen, worn smooth at the elbows, and beneath it a shirt the color of cream gone slightly old. And on his feet nothing at all, because he likes to feel the moss, and the cool grass, and the warm, shallow edges of the water as he walks. There is nothing frightening about him. This is important to know, here at the beginning, because the world is full of old stories about musicians who use their music to lead people away into danger, and we will come to some of those stories before the night is through, gently, the way you might pick up an old photograph and turn it over and set it down again. But the Fiddler of Driftmere is not one of those. His music does not take. His music gives. What it gives is rest. The deep and dreamless, and then the deep and dreaming kind. And he gives it freely, every night, to anyone who is tired enough to receive it. Now let me tell you about the fiddle itself, because the instrument is half the story, and it is a stranger and more wonderful thing than you might suppose. If you have ever held an ordinary violin, or seen one held, you will have a picture in your mind of the shape of it, the gentle curves of the body, the slender neck, the 4 strings stretched tight from the pegs at the top, down across the bridge, to the tailpiece at the bottom. Hold that picture for a moment, and then let it change, because the fiddler's instrument is a cousin of that ordinary violin, rather than the thing itself. An older and a deeper voiced relation that comes, in the waking world, from the cold and beautiful valleys of western Norway. In those valleys, for around 400 years, the people have made and played an instrument they call the hardingfeel, which we know in English as the Hardanger fiddle, after the region of Hardanger, where the oldest examples were made. To look at, it seems at first like a violin that someone has loved very much and decorated accordingly, its body inlaid with delicate patterns of mother of pearl and bone, its surface darkened and figured with fine flowing lines of black ink that the makers call rosing, its scroll at the very top, sometimes carved into the head of a dragon or a lion with its tongue curled, a small fierce guardian watching over the strings. But the true difference is hidden, and you only find it when you look closely at the neck. An ordinary violin has 4 strings, and the player draws the bow across them, and that is all. The Hardanger fiddle has those 4 strings too, the ones the bow touches, the ones that carry the melody. But running beneath them, threaded through a little tunnel carved into the bridge and passing under the fingerboard where no bow can ever reach, are 4 or sometimes 5 more strings, finer than the others, and these the player never touches at all. They are called the sympathetic strings, and they are the secret of the instrument's haunting voice. When the player draws the bow across the upper strings, the lower hidden strings, tuned to answer them, begin to tremble on their own, vibrating in sympathy with the notes above, ringing softly in agreement, so that every single note the fiddler plays comes wrapped in a shimmering halo of its own echo. The sound does not stop when the bow lifts. It lingers, sustained and silvery, ringing on in the body of the instrument after the playing hand has moved away, a soft, bright resonance that has been described by those who love it as both haunting and ethereal, an open sound, a sound with no doors closed in it, a sound you can hear straight through. There is a lovely small detail the makers speak of. The 2 openings in the body of the instrument, the sound holes that on a violin are cut in the elegant shape of a lowercase letter f, are cut on the Hardanger fiddle so that they align, carved, and overlapped just so that a person can look in through one hole and see clean through the hollow body of the instrument and out the other side. The makers say this gives the fiddle its perpetually open voice, as though the instrument were not a closed box at all, but a small hollow hill with the wind passing through it, which is a fine thing to know about the instrument the fiddler of Driftmere carries, for his fiddle is older than any of those, and the wind that passes through it is the wind that bends the grass in the meadows of the sleeping country. The body of such a fiddle is built from 2 kinds of wood, and the choice of them is the first and most important decision the maker ever makes. The front, the belly, the broad face of the instrument that you see when it is held up to play, is carved from spruce, a soft, pale wood, light and full of straight grain, chosen because it carries vibration swiftly and willingly through its long, even fibers, so that when the strings shiver, the whole front of the instrument shivers with them, and pushes that trembling out into the air as sound. The back and the sides and the neck are made from a harder wood, often a flamed maple with a rippling figure in its grain, that shifts and shines as the light moves over it, chosen because it holds and shapes and reflects the sound the spruce has made, lending it warmth and roundness and a voice that carries. A whole tree's worth of patience goes into such a thing. The wood must be cut, and then it must be left to dry, slowly, for years, sometimes for decades, sometimes for longer than a single human life, so that any maker working today is working with wood that was set aside by hands long gone. And any fiddle you hear was begun, in a sense, by someone who never lived to hear it sing. Let your jaw soften now. We hold so much in the jaw without ever noticing, clenching it through the small frustrations of the day. And you can let it go now. Let the teeth come apart a little behind your closed lips. Let the tongue rest soft against the floor of your mouth. The fiddle is finished and strung and waiting, and before the fiddler takes it up tonight, it is worth knowing where he comes from, what family of music makers he belongs to, because he is the gentlest of a very old line, and his kindness shines all the warmer when you know the company he keeps. In the cold countries of the north, in Norway and Sweden and the lands around them, there lived, in the old stories, a being the people called by many names. The Norwegians called him the Fossegrim, the Lord of the Waterfall, and the Swedes called him the Strömkarl, the Riverman. And across the wider north he was known as the Nook or the Necken, the water spirit who played the fiddle. He lived where the water lived, in the white rush of a waterfall, in the dark pool beneath a mill, in the quiet bend of a forest stream, and on long summer evenings, when the light in those northern lands stretches on and refuses to fully fade, a person walking near the water might hear him before they ever saw him. At first, they might mistake the sound for the wind moving in the birch leaves, or for a bird calling somewhere far off. But as the sun sank lower, the melody would grow, rising and insistent and impossibly beautiful, until rounding a bend by the falling water, they would see him, a slender figure, seated on a wet stone, with a fiddle tucked beneath his chin and his long fingers moving across the strings, and over those strings, the old tellers said, played the sounds of the whole living world, the sound of the forest, and the wind, and the water itself. Now, the old stories about the Fossegrim are not entirely soft ones, and I will not pretend otherwise, because we have agreed to be honest with each other tonight even as we drift. Some of the tales warn that the water spirit's music could be dangerous, that its beauty could draw the unwary too close to the deep water, and parents in those northern valleys would sometimes tell their children frightening versions of the tale for exactly that reason, to keep small wandering feet away from the edges of fast, cold rivers where a child might truly come to harm. There is a tenderness hidden inside even the frightening versions, you see. A great many of the oldest warnings dressed as monsters are really only love wearing a stern face, a parent's fear of losing a child, translated into a story strong enough to be remembered. But many other tellings of the Fossegrim are not frightening at all. In a great number of the stories, he is entirely harmless, a lonely musician who wants nothing more than an audience, and who would no more harm a listener than the evening would harm you for watching it. And in the best of the stories, the Fossegrim is a teacher. If a person wished to learn to play the fiddle as no human being could play it, the old custom said, they should go to the waterfall on a Thursday evening with an offering of food, and if the offering pleased him, the water spirit would take the learner's right hand in his own and guide it back and forth across the strings until the fingers bled. And from that night onward, the student would be able to play so beautifully, the storytellers promised, that the very trees would dance and the waterfall would stop its falling to listen. There were real fiddlers in Norway, famous ones whose names are still spoken, who were said by the country people to have learned their art this way, from the spirit in the falls, and though the fiddlers themselves mostly denied it with a smile, the stories clung to them because the music they made was so far beyond the ordinary that an ordinary explanation simply would not stretch to cover it. In the city of Bergen there stands to this day a statue of one of the most beloved of those fiddlers, and the sculptor placed beneath him carved in the falling water, the figure of the Fossegrim, so that the master would be shown forever drawing his gift from the spirit of the Norwegian wild. Whether the fiddler truly learned from the water, or simply from a lifetime of devotion, the statue does not say, and it does not need to. Both are a kind of magic. The fiddler of Driftmere belongs to this family, but he is the gentle uncle of it, the one who long ago set aside the wilder and more dangerous music of his northern kin, and kept only the part of it that soothes. He learned, somewhere in the long, unmeasured stretch of his life, that the same gift that can lure a person toward deep water can also be turned the other way, can be used to lead a person gently inward and downward into the safe, deep water of sleep. And having learned it, he has done nothing else, night after night, for longer than anyone can count. There is another family he belongs to as well, an older and a softer one, and it lives not in the cold north, but in the green hills of the Celtic west, in Ireland and Scotland and Wales, where the people told for centuries of a music that did not come from any human hand at all. They called it the music of the fairy folk, or in the Old Irish, Seol Sidhe, the music of the people of the hills, and they believed it spilled out from inside the green knolls and the ancient burial mounds, where the fair folk were said to dwell. A traveler crossing the hills at dusk might catch it drifting up from beneath the turf, very faint, very high and sweet, a music with no players to be seen, and those who heard it and lived to tell of it could never quite describe it afterward, only that it was the most beautiful sound they had ever heard, and that ordinary music sounded thin and gray to them ever after. The old folklorists who went about the countryside collecting these accounts found the same threads running through all of them, that the music came from particular places, from this hill and not that one, from the green mountain by the crossroads, where it was best not to linger after dark. And in some of the tales, a mortal man or woman, a piper or a fiddler or a harper, would be taken away inside the hill for what felt like a single night of playing, and would step back out into the world to find that years had passed, and that they had returned carrying a gift, a store of unearthly tunes that no living teacher had ever taught them, music brought back whole from the country under the hill. You can hear, in those old Celtic accounts, the same shape as the story of Driftmere, a country that lies just out of sight, reachable only at the threshold hours of dusk and dark, a music that comes from there into here, a person who crosses over and comes back changed, carrying something of the far country with them. The fiddler of Driftmere is the friendly version of that crossing. He does not take you inside the hill and keep you for 100 years. He comes out from the hill himself, every night, and brings the music to you where you lie, and he asks nothing in return, except that you let yourself receive it, and the country he carries you toward as you listen is not a trap and not a prison. It is only sleep, the most ordinary and the most necessary of all the far countries, the one you have visited every night of your whole life, and will visit again tonight, soon now, very soon. Breathe out again. Let the breath be a little longer than you think it needs to be, and notice, as it ends, the small, still pause before the next breath arrives on its own. That pause is a tiny doorway. You pass through 1,000 of them every night without noticing. Tonight you might notice one or two, and then you will stop noticing, and that will be the music doing its work. There is one more old relation to speak of before we let the fiddler begin, and this one comes nearest of all to what he does, for this one's whole purpose was sleep. In the lands of the north and the west, there lived in folklore a figure who came to children in the evening, quietly, while the house was settling and the fire was burning down, and who brought sleep with him as surely as the fiddler brings it. The English speakers came to call him the Sandman, and the story they told was that he sprinkled a fine magical sand into the eyes of children to draw their eyelids down and send them off into pleasant dreams, and that the small grains of grit you sometimes find in the corners of your eyes when you wake are nothing other than the sand he left behind in the night. The kindest and most famous telling of the Sandman comes from Denmark, from the pen of a storyteller named Hans Christian Andersen, who in the year 1841 wrote a tale about a gentle dream bringer he called overlooking, a name that means, in Danish, simply Ole Shut Eye. In Andersen's telling, this Ole Shut Eye comes creeping up the stairs in his stocking feet so as to make no sound, and he blows a soft mist of sweet milk in the older versions, or a fine dust in the later ones, into the eyes of the children of the house, just enough to make their eyelids grow heavy and droop. And then, once a child is safely asleep, he does the loveliest thing. He carries 2 umbrellas under his arm. One of them is covered all over on the inside with beautiful pictures, and this umbrella he opens and holds over the children who have been good and kind that day, so that they sleep beneath a canopy of lovely dreams all the night long. The other umbrella is plain and blank, with no pictures on it at all, and this one he holds over the children who have been unkind, so that they sleep, but sleep without any dreams, a flat and empty rest, until they wake and have another chance to be gentle. There is something so tender in that small invention. 2 umbrellas, one painted and one plain, the painted one held over you tonight, that it is worth carrying with you into sleep as a kind of comfort. Somewhere a painted umbrella is opening over your bed. The Sandman is older even than Andersen's lovely tale, and if you follow his lineage back far enough, back past the firesides of the north, you come at last to the very old gods of the Greeks and the Romans, who long ago gave faces and names to sleep and to the dreams that live inside it. They told of Nyx, who was night herself, the great dark mother from whom so much was born, and of her son, Hypnos, who was sleep, a gentle winged figure who lived in a still cave at the edge of the world where no light ever reached and no cock ever crowed to wake the morning. A cave through whose entrance flowed a quiet stream whose murmuring was the only sound. A stream the old poets called a branch of the river of forgetting. And Hypnos, in his turn, had sons, and the chief of them was Morpheus, whose name means the Shaper, and who was the god of dreams, the one who could take any shape and wear any face and walk through the sleeping minds of mortals in whatever form the dream required. From his name we still draw our word for the deep sleep that certain medicines bring. From his father Hypnos we draw our words for the sleep-like trance of hypnosis. These old gods have never really left us. They only change their clothes, slipping out of the temples and into the nursery, until the great dark mother, Night, and her gentle winged son, Sleep, and the shape-changing dream god became, over the long centuries, the kindly old man in stocking feet, with his pocket full of sand and his 2 umbrellas. The Fiddler of Driftmere knows them all. They are, you might say, the older partners in the same long and patient firm. The business of carrying tired souls across the threshold every night and bringing them safely back again every morning. A business that has never once closed its doors in all the history of living things. And what does the fiddler play? When at last he tucks the instrument beneath his chin and lifts the bow, he plays the oldest music there is. He plays the music that came before all other music, before the dances and the marches and the love songs, before anyone thought to make music for any reason other than this one. He plays lullabies, the cradle songs, the slow, soft tunes that human beings have sung to one another at the close of the day for as far back as we are able to look, and a great deal farther back than that. It is worth resting for a moment on just how old this music is, because the age of it is a comfort in itself. The oldest lullaby anyone has ever found written down was scratched into a small clay tablet around 4,000 years ago, in the ancient land of Babylon, in the country we now call Iraq, by someone whose name we will never know, who pressed the words into wet clay with a reed, and left them to harden, and who could not possibly have imagined that the song would still be studied and sung about all these thousands of years later. 4,000 years? Think of all that has fallen and risen and fallen again in that time. All the cities turned to dust, and the language has gone silent. And yet the simple human act recorded on that tablet, the act of singing a small child towards sleep, has never once stopped. It was happening that night, in Babylon. It is happening somewhere in the world this very minute, in 100 languages, in 1,000 rooms. And it will be happening long after tonight is forgotten. And here is the thing the scholars who study these songs have found. The thing that suggests the fiddler's music reaches down into something very deep in us. Lullabies from all over the world, from cultures that never met one another, that lived oceans and ages apart, and could not have copied one another, even if they had wished to, are strangely, beautifully alike. They tend to move slowly, at a pace close to that of a calm and resting heart. They tend to be built from only a few notes, repeated and gently varied, so that the ear is never startled and never has to work. They tend to rock, to sway, to fall into a swinging rhythm that echoes the oldest motion any of us ever knew. The rocking we felt before we were born, when we floated warm and weightless and were carried everywhere without ever taking a step. The Irish had their cradle songs, which they called by a soft name in their own tongue. The Japanese had theirs, sung in the old city of Edo, with words that meant little more than hush, hush, sleep now, sleep. The Germans had the famous one that a great composer set down, so that it has been played on music boxes over more sleeping children than anyone could ever number. A Spanish poet, writing 400 years ago, called these cradle songs the mother of all songs and the songs of all mothers. And he was right, for they truly do seem to be the root from which the whole great tree of human music first grew. The fiddler knows them all, not the words, for he does not sing, but the shapes of them, the slow, swaying shapes, the few gentle notes turning back on themselves, the rocking that came before we were born. He has gathered them across the whole world and the whole long reach of time, every cradle song ever sung over every drowsy child, and he has woven them together into one endless quiet melody that never quite repeats and never quite resolves, a melody that simply continues, the way the slow water of Driftmere continues, going nowhere in particular, only moving gently until the listener forgets there was ever such a thing as a destination at all. Let yourself feel how heavy your body has become. Notice your hands, wherever they are resting, and how little they want to move. Notice your feet, far away at the other end of you, and how completely you have stopped thinking about them. Your body knows how to do this. It has done it every night of your life. All that is asked of you now is to stay out of its way, to let it grow heavy and warm and slow, to let the rocking rhythm of the oldest music in the world carry you the way it has carried every sleeper who ever lived. The fiddler does not stay in Driftmere when he plays for you. This is the strange and lovely heart of what he does. He crosses over each evening as the waking world tips toward night and the lamps come on one by one in all the windows of all the houses. The fiddler rises from his low turf-roofed house by the slow water, and he takes up his fiddle, and he walks out toward the edge of his country, toward the place where Driftmere thins and softens, and the green hills give way to a kind of luminous fog that is the border between his world and yours. He has walked this path so many times that it knows him. The mist parts for him without his asking. The reeds bow him through, and he steps out of the fog and into the ordinary night of the waking world, into the gap between one breath and the next of every tired person who is ready to receive him. And he goes from window to window all night long, the way the moon goes, the way the slow tide goes, patient and unhurried, missing no one who needs him. You might wonder how he can be at every window at once, and the answer is the answer to a great many questions about the country beyond the last hill, which is that the rules of here do not apply there, and the fiddler stands half in one world and half in the other, and in the world he comes from, a single moment can be stretched as wide as a field, wide enough to hold every sleeper at once, with room to spare. So do not trouble yourself with wondering whether he is truly at your window or at someone else's. He is at yours. He has all the time in his country to be only at yours, for as long as you need him, and he is in no hurry at all to be anywhere else. When he arrives, he does not knock, and he does not enter, and you will not see him, not with your open eyes. He simply settles himself somewhere just beyond the edge of the room, in the soft dark by the window, in the place where the curtain meets the wall, in the corner where the shadows gather and pool, and he lifts the fiddle to his shoulder, and he rests his chin against the cool, worn wood of it, and he raises the bow, and he holds it there for a moment, a long-held breath of a moment, the silence before the first note, the silence you are resting inside of right now. And then, so softly that at first you cannot be sure you are hearing it at all, so softly that it might only be the wind in the eaves, or the small settling sounds of the house growing cold, he begins to play. The first note of the fiddler's music is always a low one, low and long and warm, drawn out slowly with the full length of the bow, and as it sounds, the hidden sympathetic strings beneath the fingerboard wake and begin to ring along with it, so that the single note blooms into a soft chord of itself, a note wrapped in the ghost of a note, filling the dark room with a warm, trembling resonance that you feel as much in your chest as you hear with your ears. It is a note that asks nothing and demands nothing. It does not want you to listen. It only wants you to stop, to let go, to set down whatever you were still carrying. And it is almost impossible to hear it and not obey, the way it is almost impossible to watch another person yawn and not feel your own jaw begin to open. Now something is happening inside you as the fiddler plays, something real and measurable, something that the people who study sleep in their quiet laboratories have watched and recorded and come to understand, and it is no less wondrous for being understood. The fiddler's music is not magic only. It is also a key, and it fits a lock that has been built into your body across millions of years, and when it turns, the door it opens is the door to rest. When a slow, soft, gentle sound reaches your ears, a sound without sharp edges, without sudden changes, without anything in it that might signal danger, the listening parts of your brain pass a quiet message deeper inward, to the old and wordless systems that govern the body without ever consulting the thinking mind. There is a great branching nerve that runs down through you, carrying the body's most ancient instructions, and one of the things it carries is the signal to rest, the signal the body's caretakers call the rest and digest response, the deep settling that is the opposite of fear and hurry. Soft, slow music coaxes that signal awake. As you listen, and without your doing anything at all, your heart begins to slow. The spaces between its beats grow longer and more even. Your blood pressure eases downward. Your breath, which all day has been quick and shallow and high in the chest, begins to deepen and to slow and to drop down low into the belly, each breath longer than the last, and the slowing of the breath and the slowing of the heart feed one another, each one helping the other go quieter still. There is a beautiful word for part of what is happening, and the word is entrainment. It means the falling into step of one rhythm with another. You already know it in your body, even if you have never named it. When you walk beside a friend, your footsteps drift without effort into the same pace, falling together, and neither of you decided to do it. When you sit beside someone you love, and your breathing slowly matches theirs, that is entrainment too. And when you listen, in the dark, to a music whose pace is slow and steady and close to the pace of a calm, resting heart, your own heart begins, gently, to fall into step with it, to be drawn down toward that slow, steady tempo, to be carried along. This is the reason the fiddler plays so slowly. This is the reason the cradle songs of every nation move at the unhurried pace they do, close to the pace of a heart at peace. The music offers your body a rhythm slower than the racing one the day wound it up to, and your body, grateful, lets itself be led down toward it, step by gentle step. And as your heart slows and your breath deepens, the chemistry of you changes too. The restless, vigilant hormones that the long day floods you with, the ones that keep you scanning and alert and braced against the next demand, begin to ebb away, their levels falling as the body understands at last that it is safe, that the watch can be stood down, that nothing more will be asked tonight. And in their place rise the gentler messengers, the ones that bring ease and pleasure and the willingness to let go. And among them, as the darkness deepens, the body begins to release the very hormone that governs sleep itself, the one that tells every cell in you that night has truly come and rest is permitted. The fiddler's music does not put these things into you. It cannot. It only gives the body permission to do what it already knows how to do, what it has been waiting all evening to be allowed to do. And the body, given that permission, does the rest on its own. There's one more thing the sleep watchers have found, and it is the most remarkable of all, for it suggests that the right kind of sound can reach a sleeper even after sleep has taken them, and can deepen the rest they are already in. In their laboratories, they have played soft sounds, carefully timed to the slow rolling waves of a sleeping brain, to people already asleep, and they have watched those slow, deep waves grow stronger in answer. Watch the sleepers sink further down into the most restoring depths of rest, the deep, slow wave sleep where the body does its truest mending. The sound, played in time with the sleeping brain's own rhythm, seemed to take that rhythm by the hand and lead it deeper. This is precisely what the fiddler does once you have crossed over. He does not stop playing when you fall asleep. He plays on, all through the night, and his music, timed without his ever having to think about it to the slow tides of your sleeping mind, reaches down into the dark where you have gone and carries you deeper, and holds you there, in the safe still depths, where the day's small wounds are quietly knitted closed, and the tired body is made new. So you see, there is nothing you must do. The work of falling asleep is not really work at all. It is a release, a letting go, a giving up of the steering, and everything that the fiddler's music sets in motion, the slowing heart and the deepening breath, and the ebbing of the restless hormones, and the rising of the gentle ones. All of it happens far below the level of effort, in the wordless, ancient parts of you that have been doing this faithfully every night since long before you were old enough to have a single worry to keep you awake. Trust them. They have never once failed to carry you down into sleep, not on the very worst night you have ever had, and they will not fail you tonight. Let your thinking mind, which has worked so hard and so long today, understand that it is off duty now, that it may set down its tools and step back, that the night shift is staffed by older and surer hands than its own. Let me describe for you the place the music is taking you toward, the borderland you must pass through to reach the deeper country, because it is a strange and gentle land in its own right, and you are very near its edge now. There is a threshold between waking and sleeping, a narrow drifting band of country that belongs fully to neither one, and almost everyone passes through it every single night, without ever once stopping to notice where they are. The people who study the mind gave it a name a long time ago, drawing on the old Greek words for sleep and for a guide, naming it for the idea of being led gently by the hand down into slumber. We will not trouble with the technical name tonight. We will only walk through the place itself, slowly, because you are walking through it already. In this threshold country, the brisk, busy rhythm of the fully waking mind begins to loosen and to slow, and to give way to a slower, deeper, dreamier rhythm, a soft rolling rhythm that the watchers can see in their instruments as long, gentle waves where before there were quick, small ones. And as that change comes over you, the most curious and lovely things begin to drift up out of the dark behind your closed eyes. You might see a wash of soft color, deep blues and greens and golds, blooming and fading and blooming again. You might see shapes that form and dissolve before you can name them, a face that is almost a face, a landscape glimpsed and gone, a slow rain of small bright lights. You might hear a snatch of music that no one is playing, or a voice that says your name softly and is silent, or a few words of perfect sense that mean nothing at all when you reach for them. You might feel, all at once, that you are gently falling, or floating, or growing very large or very small. None of these things is anything to fear. They are the ordinary marvels of the threshold, the first soft images rising from the deep mind as the gatekeeper of the waking world steps aside, and they are a sign, the surest sign there is, that sleep is very close now, that you have nearly arrived. The fiddler knows this threshold country better than anyone, for it is the bridge between his land and yours, and he is its keeper. Every note he plays is laid down across it like a plank in a long, low bridge over still water. And as you listen, you are walking that bridge, one slow plank at a time, with the lamplit waking world behind you growing dim, and the soft glow of the sleeping country ahead growing slowly warmer. You do not have to watch your feet. The fiddler has built this bridge 10,000 times 10,000 nights, and it is sound, and it will hold you. And at the far end of it, he is waiting, playing, with the door of his country standing open, and the warm light spilling out across the threshold to show you the way. Notice how the thoughts of the day have begun to come apart. Earlier this evening, they marched in long, sensible lines, one leading to the next. This worry handing you on to that plan, and that plan handing you on to some other concern. A whole chain of them, tight and orderly and impossible to escape. But somewhere in the last few minutes, the chain has loosened. The thoughts have begun to drift free of one another, to float apart, to lose their edges and their urgency. A thought arrives, and you watch it come, and you do not seize it. And it drifts on past and dissolves, and another takes its place, stranger than the first, less sensible, more like the beginning of a dream than the end of a worry. And you let that one drift past too. This loosening is the music doing its finest work. It is untying the long, tight chain of the day's thinking, slipping the knots one by one, until the thoughts float as separate and harmless as leaves on the slow water, and you are no longer bound to any of them, no longer pulled along behind them. Free at last simply to drift, let them go, every one of them. The thing you said today, that you wish you had said differently. The thing you must remember to do tomorrow, which you will remember tomorrow, which does not need you tonight. The small ache of something unfinished, the larger ache of something further off. None of them is welcome here, and none of them can follow you across the bridge, for the bridge will only bear the weight of a person traveling light, and the fiddler's music is gently, patiently, lifting each burden from your arms and setting it down on the near shore to wait for you, so that you may cross unencumbered, carrying nothing, owing nothing, needed by no one until the morning, which is far away, on the other side of the whole wide country of the night. And now you are stepping off the far end of the bridge, into Driftmere itself, into the country beyond the last hill, and the music is all around you now, no longer coming from a fiddle in the corner of a darkened room, but rising up out of the very ground of the place, out of the bending grass and the nodding reeds and the slow warm water, as though the whole country were the body of one great instrument, and you had stepped inside it. The deep blue dusk that never quite becomes night holds you softly. The mist moves in the low places, and underfoot the moss is thick and cool and yielding, and it takes the weight of you gladly, the way the pillow took the weight of your head a little while ago, in that other world, the one you have nearly forgotten now. Walk a little way into the country with me. There is no hurry. There has never been any hurry here. And the path leads gently downward, always gently downward. For everything in Driftmere tends downward and inward toward rest, the way water tends toward the lowest quiet place it can find. To either side, the long grass stands waist high and bends all one way in the faint warm wind, and as it bends, it gives off that long, soft hush, that sigh that travels across the whole meadow and fades and comes again, in time, you will notice, with your own slow breathing, so that you cannot tell anymore whether the meadow is breathing with you or you with it. And it does not matter. It has stopped mattering. There is only the one slow breath moving through the both of you together. The path comes down among the old trees, the great calm broad-crowned trees that have stood here since before there was anyone to count their years. And beneath them the light goes softer still, dappled and dim and green gold, and the moss climbs the trunks and drapes the low branches and hangs in soft gray beards that stir in the breath of the wind. The trees do not loom, they lean. They lean inward over the path as you pass beneath them, the way a parent leans over a cradle, and there is shelter in the way they lean, a sense of being roofed and held and watched over, so that the deepest part of you, the part that has been on guard all day, without ever once being thanked for it, finally understands that it may rest now, that the watching is being done by something far older and far stronger than itself, that it is safe, at last, to close the eyes it has kept open so long. Beyond the trees, the path comes down at last to the water, the slow, dark drift of warm water that runs through the heart of the whole country, and here the fiddler keeps a small boat, low and broad and steady, made of pale wood gone silver with age, moored among the reeds with a rope so soft it might be braided of grass. The boat is for you. It is always there, and it is always for whoever has come this far, and it asks nothing of you but that you step down into it and lie back against the heaped soft cushions in its bottom and let yourself be still. There is no need to row. There are no oars. The slow water knows where to take you, and it will take you there gently, in its own time, with no effort of yours at all. So step down into the boat now, in the country behind your closed eyes, and feel it take your weight and rock. Once, twice, settling, and feel the cushions receive you, soft and deep and warm, and let yourself lie back and look up at the deep blue sky of the sleeping country, where the first faint stars are beginning, very slowly, to come out. The boat moves off from the reeds without a sound. You did not feel it begin. There was only the moment of lying back and looking up, and then, when you noticed again, the reeds had slipped away behind, and the banks were drifting slowly past on either side, dark and soft and low, and the warm water was carrying you, unhurried, deeper into the country of sleep. The surface of the water is so still that the few early stars lie mirrored in it, doubled, one set above and one set below, and the boat seems to float in the middle of a great, gentle sphere of dusk, with stars all around, going on forever in every direction, and you in the warm center of it, held, rocking, slow. Along the banks, as you drift, the country shows you its quiet wonders, and you may look at them, or you may let your eyes fall closed, and only sense them passing, whichever is easier, for it is all the same to Driftmere whether you watch or whether you rest. Here is a meadow that runs down to the water's edge, and in it, scattered through the long grass, are flowers that glow very faintly with their own soft light, pale blue and pale gold, opening only at this dusk hour, closing again at the dawn that never comes, so that the whole field seems strewn with small, steady embers, warm and low. Here is a stand of willows trailing their long, soft fingers in the water, and as the boat slips between them, the leaves brush your face, the lightest possible touch, cool and green smelling, and then they are behind you and gone. Here is a low stone bridge, very old, its single arch furred all over with moss, and as you pass beneath it, the sound of the water changes for a moment, gathers and echoes in the cool dark under the stone, a soft hollow music, and then opens out again into the wide quiet as you come through to the other side. And all the while, beneath the small sounds of the journey, beneath the lap of the water against the pale wood of the boat, and the far-off hush of the bending grass, the fiddler's music continues. He is walking the bank now, keeping pace with the boat. Just at the edge of where you can see, a tall, stooped figure with the fiddle at his shoulder and the bow moving slow and sure across the strings. And his music has changed since the first low note in the corner of your room. It has grown, not louder, never louder, but fuller, deeper, more various, opening out like the country itself opens out, and it has begun to move through the old tunes, one by one, the way a traveler moves through the rooms of a great quiet house, lingering in each, then drifting on. The old northern people, the ones who first told of the water spirit and his fiddle, said that the spirit's music had a certain number of tunes within it, and they counted them, and they said there were 11. 11 tunes the riverman knew, 11 variations of his one great song. And they said that 10 of them were for the dancing in the waking world. 10 tunes a person might safely hear and dance to and carry home in their memory. But the 11th, they said, the 11th tune was different. The 11th was reserved, kept back, played only in the deepest part of the night, and only for the spirits of the dark. And they said that when the 11th tune was played, everything that could move would begin to move. The tables and the benches, the cups and the cans, the old grandfathers and the old grandmothers, the lame and the blind, even the smallest babe asleep in its cradle, all of them rising and swaying and turning, helpless and happy, caught up in a dance that could not be resisted and could not be stopped. The fiddler of Driftmere knows all 11 tunes, but he plays them differently from his wild northern kin, for he long ago turned his gift toward gentleness, and in his hands the dancing tunes have become drifting tunes, and the 11th tune, the deep one, the one for the spirits of the dark, has become the deepest and softest of all, a tune so slow and so low that it does not stir the body to dance, but stills it utterly, settles it, lays it down. He saves the 11th tune for now, for this hour, for the moment when a sleeper has drifted deep enough into the country to receive it. And as your boat moves on down the slow water, with the stars doubled all around and the glowing flowers passing on the banks, and the old willows trailing their fingers in the dark, he begins, very quietly, to play it. You will not be able to describe the 11th tune in the morning. No one ever can. It is the tune that lives underneath all the other tunes. The one the cradle songs of every nation were reaching toward without quite arriving. The one the fairy music drifting up from under the green hills was a far faint echo of. The one the great old gods of sleep and night and dreams would have known if they had ever taken up a fiddle. It moves so slowly that each note seems to last a long, sweet age, and the hidden sympathetic strings ring on beneath every one of them, so that the music is always answering itself, always wrapped in its own soft echo, a sound with no sharp edges anywhere in it, no beginning you could point to and no ending, only a slow, continuous unfolding that asks nothing and gives everything. And as you listen, lying back in the gently rocking boat, you feel the last of your own holding on let go, the last small effort, the last faint flicker of the part of you that was still, out of long habit, keeping some corner of itself awake and on watch, finally understands that it is safe to stop. And it stops, and you sink. You sink the way a leaf sinks through still water, slowly, turning, in no hurry, deeper and deeper into the warm dark. The boat is gone now, or rather you have stopped noticing it. The way you stopped noticing your feet a long while back. The way you have stopped noticing your breathing, which goes on, slow and deep and even, all on its own, without any help from you at all. The banks are gone. The stars are gone. Or they have become something else, soft and far and unimportant. There is only the warm dark and the slow water holding you, and the 11th tune moving through all of it, fainter now and fainter. Not because the fiddler is playing more softly, but because you are sinking below the level where sound reaches, down into the deep still country underneath the country, the deepest room of the great quiet house, the place at the very bottom of sleep where nothing stirs and nothing aches, and the tired self is gently, completely set down. You may rest there as long as you like. There is no clock in Driftmere, no bell that rings, no one who will come to tell you that your time in the deep still country is up. The night is long and it is wholly yours, and the deep dreamless rest at the bottom of it is where the truest work of sleep is done, where the body quietly repairs the small wear of the day, where the racing mind is washed clean and cooled and made ready to begin again. Far off, when the morning finally comes. So sink and stay, and let the fiddler keep his watch above you, for he does keep watch. When a sleeper has gone all the way down, the fiddler does not pack away his instrument and go home. He stays on the bank of the slow water, in the deep blue dusk of his country, and he plays on through the whole long night, his music timed without his ever having to count to the slow rolling tides of the sleeping mind, rising and falling with them, deepening them, holding the sleeper safe in the depths, the way a hand, cupped around a candle, holds the flame safe from the wind. The sleep watchers in their laboratories have caught the shadow of this. They have seen that the right soft sound, offered in time with the sleeper's own deep rhythm, can draw that rhythm deeper, can lengthen the most restoring stretches of the night. What they measure with their instruments, the old stories told as a fiddler on a riverbank, playing through the dark, and both of them are pointing at the same true thing, which is that we are not meant to cross the long night alone, and that something gentle has always been willing to see us through it. And after a time, in the deep still country, you will begin, slowly, to rise again. Not toward waking, not yet. The morning is still far away. But toward the lighter, dreaming country that lies above the deepest one. This rising and sinking happens many times across a night, gently, in long, slow swells, down to the deep, dreamless bottom, and up toward the dreaming shallows, and down again. Over and over, a slow tide that carries you through the dark in stages, each one doing its own quiet work. And when you rise toward the dreaming country, the dreams are waiting for you. And here another of the fiddler's old kin comes quietly into the story, the shaper of dreams himself. The old Greeks, you will remember, gave the name Morpheus to the god of dreams, and the name means the shaper, for it was his gift to take any form and wear any face and build, out of nothing, the whole vast moving country of a dream, and set the sleeper down in the middle of it as though it were entirely real. The fiddler and the shaper are old companions. The fiddler carries you down into sleep and holds you in the depths, and when you rise toward the dreaming shallows, it is the shaper who meets you there, and from the soft raw stuff of the deep mind, from the day's loose ends, and the year's quiet hopes, and the long buried scraps of everything you have ever seen, he builds the rooms, and the roads, and the faces of your dreams, and he opens over you, just as the gentle old dream-bringer of the Danish tale once did, the umbrella painted on its inside with 1,000 moving pictures, so that you sleep beneath a slow turning canopy of them all the night long. The dreams of Driftmere are gentle ones. The shaper who works in this country has learned the fiddler's own gentleness, and the dreams he builds here are the kind you are sorry to leave, soft, wandering dreams, in which you are somewhere green and warm and safe, somewhere you half remember, walking a road that keeps unfolding, pleasant new turnings, meeting faces that are glad to see you, finding rooms in familiar houses that you never knew were there. If a harder dream should drift near, a dream with an edge to it, the fiddler has only to deepen his tune a little, to lean on the low, warm strings, and the hard dream loses its grip and dissolves and drifts away, and the soft green wandering returns. You are watched over here. Nothing in this country wishes you anything but rest. There are sounds in the dreaming country that are not the fiddle, and they are worth knowing of, for they too are very old. In the green hills of Wales, the people told of a goddess named Rhiannon, and they told that she kept birds, 3 wonderful birds, whose singing was unlike any singing in the waking world. The song of Rhiannon's birds, the old tales said, was so sweet and so strange that it could wake the dead from their long sleep, or, just as easily, lull the living into a sleep so deep and so pleasant that years might pass in what seemed a single charmed afternoon, and the listener would not age, and would feel no hunger, and would want for nothing, wrapped in that endless, gentle song those birds sing in the dreaming country of Driftmere. You may hear them, far off, threaded through the fiddle music, a high sweet bird song with no bird to be seen, drifting down from the soft trees, and it will not steal years from you, for the fiddler has tamed even that old enchantment to his own kind purpose, and the only thing the birds will steal tonight is the last of your wakefulness, which you are glad enough to let them have. The cradle songs are here too, all of them, every one that was ever sung. The Welsh had their soft ones, and the Irish their soft ones. The slow, swaying songs that mothers and grandmothers and fathers and aunts have breathed over drowsy children in those green countries for longer than anyone can say. In the old city of Edo, in Japan, the people sang a cradle song so old that it became the root from which a whole nation's lullabies grew. A song whose words mean little more than the soft sounds of comfort themselves. Hush now. Hush. Sleep. Sleep. The meaning resting not in the words at all, but in the slow rocking shape of the tune, and the gentleness of the voice that carries it. A great German composer took a folk tune and made of it the most famous cradle song in all the world, the one that is played from 1,000 music boxes, over 1,000 cradles, slowing and softening as the spring winds down, the last few notes coming farther and farther apart, until the box falls silent and the child is asleep. All of these songs are gathered into the fiddler's endless tune. He plays them not one after another, but all at once, somehow, woven together so finely that you cannot pick out where one ends and the next begins. The whole long human history of singing the tired towards sleep, sounding all together, soft and slow, over your bed. There is a great comfort waiting for you here, in the deep of the night, and it is this. You are not alone in being carried. At this very hour, all across the turning world, the dark is moving slowly westward, and everywhere it goes, it brings the sleeping country with it, and into that country, tonight, sink countless others, as many as there are lit windows going dark, as many as there are tired heads finding their pillows, an enormous, quiet company of sleepers, stretching away in every direction, more than you could ever count, each one being carried down into rest by the same slow tide that is carrying you. And behind them, stretching back through all the nights that have ever been, lies a company vaster still, every soul who has ever lived and slept, every tired farmer and weary sailor, every restless child and aching elder, every king and every beggar, all of them, every single one, lying down at the end of their day, and being carried down into the dark, and brought back up again into the light, night after night after night, since the very beginning. You are joining them now. You are taking your turn in the oldest and gentlest of all human rituals, the laying down of the self at the end of the day, and you are in the safest of company, the company of everyone who has ever lived, all of them having done exactly this, all of them having survived the doing of it to wake again in the morning, as you will wake far off when the morning finally comes. But the morning is a long way off. Let that be the softest pillow of all beneath your sinking mind. There are hours and hours of night still ahead of you, dark and warm and deep, more night than you could use up even if you tried, so that there is no need at all to hurry through it, no need to ration it, no need to lie there counting what remains. It is abundant. It is overflowing. You could sink down into the deep still country and rest there a long, sweet age, and rise again into the dreaming shallows, and wander there as long as you liked, and sink again, and rise again, over and over, and still the morning would not have come. Still there would be more night, more rest, more of the slow water, and the deep blue dusk, and the fiddler playing on the bank. Spend it freely. It cannot run out before you are ready, and the fiddler does not tire. This is the last and the deepest comfort he offers. However long the night, however many times you sink and rise across the dark hours, he is there, on the bank of the slow water, the tall, stooped figure with the fiddle at his shoulder, the bow moving slow and sure, the hidden strings ringing their soft answer beneath every note. He does not grow weary of you. He does not glance toward home and wish he would hurry. He has all the patience of the country he comes from, the country with no clocks and no bells and no hurry in it anywhere. And he will keep his watch over your sleep as faithfully in the last gray hour before the dawn as he kept it in the first soft moment when he settled in the corner of your room and lifted the bow. You may let go of him as completely as you have let go of everything else tonight. May forget him entirely, may sink so deep that you do not hear a single note, and he will be there still, playing, watching, holding the deep water steady around you, and you need never once check to see if he has stayed, because he has, and he will, all the night through, so there is nothing left for you to do. There never really was. The whole long art of falling asleep turns out to be an art of doing less and less, of setting down and setting down and setting down, until there is nothing left in your hands, and nothing left on your mind, and nothing left of the day's long effort, but a warm and heavy stillness, and you have arrived, without ever taking a step, at the place you were trying so hard to reach. Your body is heavy now, heavy and warm and slow, sinking into the soft place beneath it, every muscle let go, every joint at ease, the breath moving on its own, deep and slow and even, in and out, like the slow water, like the bending grass, like the long swells that carry you down and down through the dark. Your thoughts have come quite apart now, drifting separate and harmless and slow, dissolving before they can finish forming, more like the first soft fragments of a dream than anything belonging to the waking world. The room around you is dark and quiet and safe. The fiddler is in the corner, playing. The bridge of soft notes runs out across the still water toward the deep blue country, and you have crossed it. You are across. You are home in the land beyond the last hill, and all that remains is to rest. Let the next breath out slowly, and with it, let go of the very last thing, whatever it is, the smallest stubborn flicker of holding on, the final thread that ties you to the waking world. You will not need it tonight. The fiddler has the watch, the slow water has you, the deep blue dusk is all around, and the glowing flowers, and the old leaning trees, and the soft far singing of the birds that lull and do not wake, and beneath all of it, holding all of it, the endless, gentle tune, the 11th tune, the one with no beginning and no end, drawing you down and down and down into the warm and dreamless deep, where the tired self is set gently down at last, and the long good rest of the whole night opens out before you, abundant, unhurried, wholly yours. Rest now, sink now, Sleep. And if you are still here, still drifting somewhere in the warm shallows, just above true sleep, not quite gone, but very nearly, that is well too. There is no failing at this, no falling behind, no being too slow. Some nights, the crossing takes a little longer, and the fiddler knows it, and he does not mind, and neither should you. He will simply play on, softer and slower, and you have only to keep doing the gentle nothing you are already doing. Lying still, breathing slow, letting the words move past you, like the slow water moving past the boat. And in its own time, without your forcing it, the last of your wakefulness will loosen and let go. The way the last leaf finally lets go of the branch in autumn, not because it is pulled, but because it is simply ready. So stay, drift. There is no hurry, and there is so very much night. Above the country of Driftmere, in the deep blue that is neither dusk nor true dark, a moon has risen, and it is worth lifting the eyes of your mind to it before they fall closed for good, because it is a gentle moon, a low and golden and enormous moon, the kind that hangs near the horizon at the start of certain nights, and seems almost close enough to touch. It does not glare. It glows, softly, the way a lamp glows through a curtain, and it lays a long path of soft gold light across the slow dark water, a shining road running straight out from the bank toward the great low moon, trembling very slightly where the water dimples and stirs. The old people everywhere watched the moon over their waters and felt what you are feeling now, that quiet pull, that sense of being gently called toward rest. And they were not wrong to feel it, for the moon has ruled the tides of sleep as surely as it rules the tides of the sea, drawing the whole tired world down toward its bed night after night, since long before there was anyone awake to think it. Let it draw you now. Let your gaze drift along that shining golden road across the water, out and out toward the great soft moon, and let your eyes grow heavy on the way, heavier and heavier, until the golden road blurs and softens, and runs together into one warm glow, and your eyes fall closed, and the glow remains, gentle and gold, behind your eyelids, holding you. The first cradle songs, the very oldest ones, the ones from the ancient lands between the rivers 4,000 years ago, were not only songs to soothe, they were also charms of protection, small spoken shields raised over a child against the dark and against whatever the old fearful imagination believed might move in the dark to do a sleeping child harm. A mother would sing not only to lull but to guard, to draw a warm circle of sound around the cradle that nothing unkind could cross, and the child, hearing it, would feel that warmth and that safety even without understanding a single word, and would sleep the sounder for it. The fiddler's music is such a shield. As he plays, all through the night, the warm ringing sound of the fiddle draws a circle around your bed that nothing troubling can cross. The worries of the day cannot follow you in. The hard dreams cannot take hold. The small fears that sometimes wait in the dark for a tired mind to seize upon find no opening. For every crack and corner of the room is filled, gently, with the warm answering sound of the strings, and you are held inside that sound as safely as a small flame is held inside a lantern, burning quiet and steady while the great dark night moves harmlessly past on every side. So you are guarded, as well as carried, guarded by the music, watched over by the fiddler, held by the slow warm water, roofed by the leaning trees, lit by the great low golden moon, and surrounded, near and far, by the vast quiet company of all the other sleepers being carried gently down into the same deep country at the same dark hour. There is nothing here that means you harm. There is nothing here that asks anything of you. There is only rest in every direction, as far as the drifting mind can reach. Rest and warmth and the slow unfolding tune, and the soft gold light, and the long, long night still ahead, abundant and unhurried, with the morning so far off that it need not be thought of at all. Feel, one more time, how heavy and warm and willing your body has become. There is a particular kind of heaviness that comes only at the edge of sleep, a sweet sinking weight, as though the whole body had been very gently filled with warm sand, and you are feeling it now, in your hands, in your arms, in your legs, in your feet, in the slow rise and fall of your chest, in the soft weight of your head pressing its warm hollow into the pillow. That heaviness is trust. It is the body letting go of the last of its holding, settling fully into the surface beneath it, giving its whole weight over to be held, the way you give your whole weight to the warm water of a bath and let it carry you. There is nothing left to hold up. There is nothing left to hold on to. There is only the sinking, slow and sweet and warm, down through the shallows, down past the dreaming country, down toward the deep still room at the very bottom of the night, where you will rest now until the slow tide turns and begins, hours and hours from now, to carry you gently back up toward the far-off morning. The fiddler plays on, the slow water carries you, the moon lays its soft gold road across the dark, and somewhere just at the edge of hearing, fainter than the faintest sound, the 11th tune turns and turns, with no beginning and no end, and you turn slowly with it, sinking, drifting, let go, at peace, gone at last, and wholly into the warm, deep country of sleep. Rest there, stay as long as the night allows, which is long, so very long, and when at last the morning comes, far off on the other side of all this dark, you will rise from the deep water rested and clear and new, carrying back with you, as the old travelers always did from the country beyond the last hill, some faint sweet trace of the music, a quietness you cannot quite name, a sense that you were watched over kindly in the night by something old and gentle. But that is for the morning, and the morning is hours and hours away. For now there is only the deep warm dark, and the fiddler keeping his watch, and the long good rest that is yours, all of it, until the dawn. High over the sleeping country, the stars of Driftmere have come fully out now, more of them than you have ever seen from any waking window, scattered thick and soft across the deep blue dark, not sharp and cold and glittering the way the stars of the waking world can be, but warm somehow and slow, each one glowing with a gentle, steady light that does not flicker. They turn, very slowly, the whole soft field of them wheeling overhead so gradually that you cannot catch them moving. Only sense, if you watch a long while, that they have drifted on. There is one grouping of them, low in the east, that the long-ago sleepers of this country are said to have called the Fiddler, a loose scatter of soft lights in the rough shape of a stooped figure with something raised to its shoulder, keeping its place in the sky all the night long, watching over the country the way the fiddler himself watches over you. You need not find it. You need not even open the eyes of your mind to look. It is enough to know that it is there, that even the sky of the sleeping country keeps a gentle watch, that wherever you drift tonight, you drift beneath kind and constant lights. The fiddler's own house, far back along the slow water, has let its one gold window grow dim, the fire within it burning low and soft, banked for the long night, a single warm coal of light in all the blue dark, steady and small and reassuring, the way a nightlight left burning in a far room is reassuring to a child who wakes for a moment in the dark and sees it and is comforted and sinks back down. The boat that carried you has long since slipped its mooring of woven grass and drifted back, empty and slow, to rest among the reeds where it always waits, rocking very gently, ready for whoever next comes down the long path, needing to be carried. The reeds nod over it, the warm water laps against its pale silver side, and all of it, the dim gold window, and the empty waiting boat, and the nodding reeds, and the slow warm water, and the great soft wheeling stars, all of it holds its quiet place in the deep blue dusk, unchanging, patient, asking nothing, while you rest in the warm deep at the bottom of the night. Your breathing has gone as slow and as deep as the slow deep water itself. You are not directing it. You stopped directing it a long while ago, and it has carried on without you, faithful and easy, drawing the warm night air in and letting it slowly out, in and out, each breath a small soft tide. And between the breaths now, there are those long, still pauses, those tiny open doorways, and you pass through them, one after another, without noticing, deeper each time, further from the shore of waking, closer to the place where even the drifting stops, and there is only the warm dark and the deep good rest. If a thought should still rise, now and then, let it rise and let it go, the way a single bubble rises, slow through still water and breaks softly at the surface, and is gone. You owe it nothing. You need not follow it. There is only the sinking, the warm, slow sinking, and the music growing fainter, not because it is leaving, but because you are going where sound cannot follow, down into the deepest, quietest room of the whole long night. And the fiddler watches you go, and is glad. This is the only thing he has ever wanted, across his long, uncountable life, the only reward he has ever asked for his playing. To see a tired soul carried safely down into rest, to watch the lines of the day smooth away from a sleeping face, to know that for this one whole night, at least, someone he has played for is held and safe and at peace in the deep country, troubled by nothing, lacking nothing, needing nothing, simply resting, the way every living thing is meant to rest, the way the grass rests under the dew, and the water rests in the still pool, and the great low moon rests its long gold light across the dark. He will keep his watch over you until the slow tide turns. He will play you down through every deep swell of the night, and meet you in every dreaming shallow, and turn aside every dream that is not gentle. And when at last the far-off morning begins to gray the edges of the waking world, he will not wake you, never that. He will only loosen his music by the smallest degree, and let you begin, of your own accord, in your own time, to drift slowly back up toward the light, rested and whole, while he gathers his fiddle and turns and walks back along the bank toward the dim gold window of his low turf house, to wait, patient as ever, for the dust to come again, and another tired soul to come down the long path, needing to be carried. But all of that is hours and hours away, on the far side of the whole wide night, and there is no need to think of it now, no need to think of anything now. There is only this, the warm dark, the deep rest, the slow water holding you, the soft stars wheeling overhead, the dim gold window burning low and faithful far along the bank, and the endless gentle tune turning and turning, with no beginning and no end, carrying you down and holding you and keeping you through all the long, good hours of the dark. There is a warmth in the air of the deep country tonight, a soft, enfolding warmth that you can feel on your skin, even here at the bottom of sleep. The warmth of a room where a fire has burned all evening and banked itself down to a steady glow. The warmth of being thoroughly and completely safe. And there is a scent to it as well, faint and green and good. The scent of the long grass, and the slow water, and the moss on the leaning trees. And somewhere underneath all of it, that older, settled smell of wood smoke from a fire long out. The smell that tells the oldest part of you, without any words at all, that the day's work is finished, that the door is shut against the night, that everyone who needs to be home is home, and that it is time, at last, to rest. Breathe it in, that warm, green, good-smelling air of the sleeping country, and let it fill you, and let it carry you the last small distance down. The fiddler, before he turns at last toward home in the far gray hours, will leave one thing behind in you, the way he leaves it in every sleeper he carries. He will leave the faintest trace of his tune, a few soft notes of it, tucked away somewhere deep beneath your waking, so that tomorrow, in some unremarkable moment of the ordinary day, you may find yourself unaccountably calm, eased for no reason you can name, and you will not know why, and you do not need to know why. It will be the trace of the fiddle, the small gift the gentle music makers have always left in those they played for. A quietness carried up out of the deep country and into the light, the way the old travelers carried strange, sweet tunes up out of the hills. But that is tomorrow's small grace, and it will keep. Tonight there is only the resting, and there is so much of it, and it is all for you. Sleep now. You are safe. You are carried. You are home in the country, beyond the last hill, and the fiddler is keeping his watch, and the whole long night is yours. Sleep. If this story carried you gently toward rest tonight, you would help this quiet little channel more than you know by tapping the like button and by subscribing so that the fiddler can find his way back to your window again on the next tired night with another long, slow story to carry you down into sleep. Rest well, sleep deeply, and we will drift together again soon.